Jenna, and today I'm here to do my movie and television show wrap up for the month of December in 2020. In December, I watched 14 movies, 7 TV shows, so let's just get started. So the first TV show that I watched this month is I watched seasons 6 and 7 of New Girl. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Season 6 for me was somehow better than all the rest of the seasons put together. I absolutely loved the storylines that they were bringing in. This season really showed how much the group has grown up and really dealing with the more adult things like Cece and Schmidt obviously with their house, and Nick and Jess learning more about each other and learning more about themselves, and the finale had me sobbing. I can understand because I know they wrote the season 6 finale as a series finale just in case they weren't going to get a 7th season, and you can definitely tell that. It's a brilliant finale that had me bawling my eyes out and I loved every second of it. But then of course we did get a season 7, and season 7 was a really cute, really random time. Like, given that it was only 8 episodes long, it was just the most random thing I've ever seen, but I loved it. Ruth stole my heart and she is now my favorite character of the show. The 3-year time jump was like a little jarring to begin with, but I think it worked perfectly well because it meant that we got to see Ruth, who is of course Schmidt and Cece's daughter. We got to see her being a little more interactive. We got to see how everyone's lives are progressing 3 years later, and I think it was really well done, a really wise decision to have that time jump. In the finale they have this flash forward, and I think it's like a 7 to 10 years later flash forward, and oh my goodness, it had me absolutely sobbing. It had me sobbing my eyes out. The finale was brilliant. It was so reminiscent of the show and just fantastic, and I'm really glad that I got the chance to sit down and watch New Girl in full because it really is a fantastic show that I absolutely loved. Second TV show that I watched this month was season 3 of Jessie. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Again, not a lot I can say about Jessie. It is a Disney Channel show, but it's one that focuses on not a teenager. It focuses on someone who is a working adult, and I think that is something really different for Disney, not something they've done before, and I really love Jessie. I really sort of relate to her because she's struggling to achieve her dreams while she's working this job that she didn't expect to be working, and I really relate to that. I really relate to Jessie. Third TV show that I watched this month was season 2 of The Mandalorian, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Y'all, season 2 of The Mandalorian was freaking incredible. It is one of the best seasons of television I've seen in a really long time. Every episode had me on the edge of my seat. Every episode had me wanting more, wanting them to be longer episodes. All the different reveals that we had, all the different cameos, the different characters that showed up. The finale had me absolutely sobbing because it was so beautiful and so well done. You can really see the relationship between Baby Yoda and Mando, and it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I cannot wait for season 3. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in season 3. Obviously the end of season 2 we sort of wrapped up one storyline, which I think this particular character will definitely come back because they are a fan favorite, but I think season 3 is probably going to shift the focus on retaking Mandalore and restoring that planet to its glory, so I'm really excited to see where they go from here. Fourth TV show that I watched this month was season 2 of His Dark Materials, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. My memory card filled up. I have no idea what we were talking about, but I think we were probably talking about His Dark Materials season 2. So I watched that this month, 5 out of 5 stars. I don't understand why people are sleeping on this show. It is freaking phenomenal. It's fantastic. It's one of the best television shows I think I have ever seen in my life, and it's one of the best adaptations I've ever seen in my life. So it's a book to TV show adaptation of the His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman. Y'all, oh my god, it was so freaking good. Even knowing what was gonna happen in the season 2 finale, I sobbed. Like, I was not okay after watching that episode, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew what was coming, and then watching it I was like, this is not okay. The new characters this season, like, we got to meet Dr. Mary Malone, whom we've never seen adapted on screen before. Perfect. Mrs. Coulter is amazingly just deceitful and dark and brilliant. Ruth Wilson is incredible. Daphne and Amir as Lyra and Will are the Lyra and Will that I didn't know I needed, but I did. I needed them. I love them so much. Every time they talk to each other, all I can see is just soulmate, 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 and I'm like, this is so good. Lyra had a little scene with Pan in the finale where she's talking about how she thinks that they're changing and that Will is the one changing them, but they don't want to change. And I'm like, girl, that is something everybody goes through at your age. This is incredible. It is a fantastic series. They just got picked up for a third and final season, which I'm really, really excited about. It means they're going to adapt the Amber Spyglass, but they're not going to try to take it past the source material, which is phenomenal. Such a good show. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Fifth TV show I watched this month was actually a rewatch, and I rewatched parts 1 to 3 of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I love this show. I love The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I think it is a fantastic adaptation of the Dark comics. I think it's a fantastic show. The characters are incredible. The acting is phenomenal, and the stories are just so good. I obviously was rewatching parts 1 to 3 because part 4 dropped on New Year's Eve, and I'm just stupidly excited for that. The 6th TV show that I watched this month was seasons 1 and 2 of The Winx Club. In my defense, the trailer for Fate the Winx Saga came out, which is the live action adaptation of Winx Club that Netflix are doing, and it looked horrible. It just didn't look like Winx, and so I immediately was like, I must rewatch the original. So I went back and rewatched season 1. I think I've seen season 1 all the way through before. I've definitely never seen all the way through season 2 though, so by the end of it I was like, this is a children's show. I am stressed out right now, but I remember watching it as a kid and loving it. It's so fun, it's so colourful, the characters are fantastic, and the stories are actually really well thought out and really well planned, and the character growth, the character arcs that they go through for a kid show is actually really well done, and I loved everything about it. And then the 7th and final TV show I watched this month was season 2 of The Borgias, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. So The Borgias was a teen show I pulled out a couple of months ago. Finally got around to watching season 2, and it was brilliant. I really loved it. I have to admit though, watching this show, I probably only understand like a good 70 to 75% of what's actually happening on the screen, but what I do understand, I'm absolutely loving seeing everything that happened this season. So we saw Cesare and Lucrezia got a hell of a lot closer this season, and they did some things, especially in the final couple episodes, that I just sat there and went, whoa, okay, wow, yeah, that's a thing. Juan was the worst person ever this season, but I feel like he's been that throughout the whole show, so I was a bit like, okay. Alexander went through some really interesting stuff as well. There was an episode where there was a lightning strike on his church, and he immediately took that as it was a sign from God that they're not doing God's work, and it was just really interesting to see all of that. Michaeletto turns out is gay, which I did not see coming at all, but loved. So like the whole show is just really enjoyable, and once I sort of get into it and I get in a rhythm and I just start binging, I'm like, this is really good. I just wish I understood more of what was going on. So for all the TV shows that I watched this month, so we'll quickly pop on over to the movies. So the first film that I watched this month was a rewatch. That was A Bad Mum's Christmas, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is the sequel to Bad Mums, and it's starring Mila Kunis, Jennifer Connelly, and Kristen Bell, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a fantastic film. The fact that the mums have their mums come for the Christmas is great. The whole fact that it was a Christmas film that I could watch with family because they wouldn't hate that it was a Christmas film, absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed, and really glad I watched. Second TV show I watched was another rewatch, and that was Doctor Strange. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Doctor Strange is not my favorite of the MCU films. However, the more I do watch it, the more I do have a respect for it and an understanding of why it is so necessary and so powerful of a film. It's just not one that I go back to every time. Doctor Strange is one of those films that I'm likely to only watch if I'm doing an MCU rewatch. I'm not likely to just put it on because I enjoy. I do love the characters though, and I am really keen to see the sequel because I think the sequel is going to be even better than the first one. Third film I watched was another rewatch. That was The Spy Who Dumped Me. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Spy Who Dumped Me is just one of these fun action comedy films that you put on when you've got nothing else to do. Stars Sam Heughan, Mila Kunis, and Kate McKinnon, I think is her name, and they're fantastic together. It's a really great comedy, but it's also something so fun that you can just watch and enjoy. Fourth film that I watched this month was The Christmas Chronicles, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I had never seen The Christmas Chronicles before, and I actually really loved it. It was sort of a different sort of Christmas film. It still had that same feel-good, happy time to it, but Kurt Russell as Santa was so different that it just gave the film a really different vibe. vibe from the normal Christmas films, and it's one that I really, really highly enjoyed. Fifth film I watched this month was The Christmas Chronicles 2, which I also gave 4 out of 5 stars. This one was very, very, very different from the first film. This one is definitely more reminiscent of those typical Christmas films, and it was sort of lacking that something special that the first film did have. It was still fantastic. We got some really cool Home Alone references in it, and I truly did enjoy the film. Speaking of Home Alone, the 6th film that I watched this month was a rewatch, and that was Home Alone, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I have only seen this film a handful of times now, and it's fantastic. It really is. It's such a simple concept, and yet it's pulled off so fantastically well. It's so much fun to watch and to see Kevin really just come into his own, and it's a great family-friendly, fun Christmas film. 7th film that I watched this month was another rewatch. That was Christmas Inheritance, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is one of those Netflix Christmas films which are very typical, you know, big town company girl goes to small town, meets boy, falls in love with boy, that sort of thing. It's very, 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 very typical of Christmas films, but it's one that I do enjoy. I do love Eliza Taylor. I think she's fantastic. So that film, while being cheesy as hell, is still a really enjoyable one. 8th film that I watched this month was The Prom on Netflix, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I loved absolutely everything about The Prom. I actually watched it twice. I watched it once and then I watched it again on Christmas Eve / Christmas morning. It's fantastic. The songs are incredibly catchy. The actors have done such an impeccable job, in my opinion, of bringing these characters to life. I loved the story. I loved everything. I loved the messages, the colorfulness, just the colors of the film were amazing, and it's something that I'm really glad that I watched. 9th film I watched this month was more of like a special, and that was the High School Musical, The Holiday Special, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I wasn't sure exactly what I was expecting, but this really wasn't it, but it was basically just all of the actors, they sing a song and they tell us a little bit about the show and about their Christmases that they have with their families. It was cute, it was fun. We got a little bit of a sneak peek of season 2, and I have to admit, in the last couple months I've realized that I actually really, really enjoyed High School Musical, the series, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. The little sneak peek that we got was fantastic and really showed everybody singing rather than just the main characters, so I can't wait to see what happens in season 2. 10th film I watched this month was another rewatch, and that was the Santa Claus 2. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This is my favorite film in the Santa Claus trilogy. I think this one is fantastic because Scott is already really happy as Santa, but he is going out and he's finding his Mrs. Claus, and it's just a great, really fun, really enjoyable film, perfect for the holiday season. 11th film I watched this month was another rewatch. That was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I loved this film when I first watched it, but now the more times I rewatch it, the more that I can see that it doesn't quite live up to the hype of the first one. It's still fantastic. I love Baby Groot. I love Yondu, and he has a bigger role in this film, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and the whole like fighting ego thing, that whole section of the film is a bit like, okay, this is where you've sort of fallen down a little bit, but it's still fantastic. The soundtrack's amazing, the characters are great, and I really, really, really love this one. 12th film I watched this month was another rewatch, and that was Wreck-It Ralph, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I think Wreck-It Ralph is one of these really underrated Disney films. It's not a Disney Pixar, it's just a plain Disney Animation Studios film, and it's fantastic. It's really, really, really good, and it absolutely has no business being as good as it is. The characters are fantastic. The message that the film has is incredible. The plot is, while it's relatively simple, it's also got a massive plot twist that I absolutely did not see coming, but it's fan-freaking-tastic. The film has its scary moments, and I mean it has its real like kind of scary moments that little kids would be a bit about, but the whole thing is amazing and fantastic, and I'm actually really glad that I rewatched it. I haven't watched it in a couple of years, and it reminded me of just how good it really is. 13th film we watched this month was We Can Be Heroes on Netflix, which I only gave 2 out of 5 stars. This is from the creator of Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I never watched Shark Boy and Lava Girl, but I was in love with the Spy Kids films. I don't know if the Spy Kids films are as cheesy as this one, but this one was horrible. Oh, I won't say it was horrible, but it was really, really hard to get behind because there were so many kids that you were meant to have time with and to fall in love with, and you just couldn't because there were so many of them that you weren't really sure what was going on. So each of them have their own little special power, but because there were so many of them, we didn't spend enough time with anybody for me to really like them. So I struggled with that film a lot. Oh, whoops. Apologies that the angle just changed. I absolutely just kicked the tripod. 14th film that I watched this month was Wonder Woman 1984, and I can't decide whether to give this film a 2 stars or a 3 stars, so we're just gonna give it like a 2.5. I mean, I struggle with DC films as it is. I don't think the DC films are particularly good movies. I think that they all really struggle in very key aspects. This one for me was no different. The pacing of this film was really off. It felt really long in places, and like other things could have been expanded upon. The villains of this film, they were just kind of there and they weren't really anything exciting. The ending of the film was completely anticlimactic and such a total letdown, and also really implausible, because there is no way in hell you will ever get every single person on earth to agree to something. I don't care what you're doing. That's just not plausible. And I mean, yes, it's a superhero film, you know, they're not plausible anyway, but in a film like that, you need to have some sense of normality, and that is just not it. So I really struggled with that. The one thing I did really like about the film is I liked the reasoning they had behind having Chris Pine in it. I liked that. I liked how they managed to do that, and that was the only part of the film that I actually really liked. Oh, and the mid-credits scene I liked as well. I thought that was a really cute little callback. But the rest of the film, just, I don't really think Diana learnt anything. She's still kind of the same person that she was at the beginning of the film than she now is at the end of it. So I was like, but what did you really learn? Again, the villains were sort of meh. The whole time Max was on screen, I was just like, can you shut up or go do something a bit more interesting, please? Because you're incredibly annoying. And yeah, I just was not a big fan of that film. And I actually lied. I watched 15 films this month, and the 15th film that I watched was a rewatch, and that was Spider-Man Homecoming, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is probably my favorite of all the Spider-Man films. I think it's fantastic. It really does introduce this new fun Spider-Man, which is something that I absolutely love. Tom Holland is a fantastic new addition. The twist in this film about the villain is something that I absolutely never saw coming, and I love everything about it. Hello from the future. This is editing Jenna. I'm currently editing the movie wrap up, and I realized I forgot to pull a new show from the tin. I didn't pull one in December because I wanted to try to finish as many shows as possible. That pretty much didn't happen, but we're gonna pull a new show anyway. Let's hope we pick one that's got like 1 season. Okay, the show we pulled is, can you read that? Little Women, which I believe is on Stan, and I believe is a short series. It is 1 season. It is set against the backdrop of a country divided. The story follows the 4 March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, on their journey from childhood to adulthood while their father is away at war. There's only 3 episodes. How good! It stars Dylan Baker, Ant Elwey, Willa Fitzgerald, Michael Gambon, Emily Watson, Angela Lansbury. And it also looks like it's got Catherine Newton and Maya Hawke in it. So, should be a good time. There you go. That is all of the movies and television shows that I watched in the month of December of 2020. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below what you watched this month, because I would absolutely love to know. If you like this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.